A lot of people think about the Grampians and they think about the national park, but realistically the tourism region is far broader than that. So it takes in 4 local government areas in Western Victoria, and then down the other way, to Hamilton. So you're getting close to the South Australian border as well. So when you look at that sort of centre patch that we look after, it's a huge area. We're a pretty small team, 10 staff total, and only 2 of us are full-time. A lot of tourism businesses, most of them would be, I would say, sort of small mum and dad or family businesses, and they can be across all sorts of sectors. So there's a lot of accommodation, retail. It's a really broad product offering, but the national park, the Grampians National Park, would really be the centrepiece of that. And we do, in our messaging, we highlight wide open spaces and the natural attractions of the area as the main draw card to get people to the Grampians. Then, of course, COVID. Bang, work from home. Operators that started to email us going, hey, about that post you put up, I've had a cancellation. And then it was just this flood of messages saying, hey, everyone's cancelling. Actually, we did probably underestimate the COVID situation. I think we really just went into a bit of shock at that time. We, as an industry body, we started just communicating out what our operators had to do. And we used, that was all digital, but it had to be digital. So we had to make sure that we were using, EDM, we were using social media, we were using our website to then pull in all the relevant information, because I think, for tourism operators, there was information coming from everywhere. And depending on what sector of the industry you're involved in, whether it's hospitality or accommodation or retail or whatever it might be, there was stuff coming from everywhere, and we really had to consolidate that for our operators. But once everyone knew where they stood and everything was locked down, then we went out to them and said, okay, what is this situation highlighting for you in terms of gaps in your professional development or gaps in your understanding of, things that you need to do better, basically. What came back from most of the operators that responded was digital marketing. And we qualified that in the questions that we asked. We're saying when we say digital marketing, we're not just talking about setting up a Facebook page. Do you understand Google Analytics? Have you even claimed your Google My Business? Really simple stuff that if you're a larger organisation and you've got a digital marketing person set aside, to do this full time, easy for you. But as I say, a lot of these are mum and dad operators who may have even bought an accommodation property as a pre-retirement plan. They had no idea on some of this. So reputation management, well, a lot of people roll their eyes when you talk about that, but some of them had never even heard that terminology. So search engine optimization, all those things. So that was a real highlight for us. And some of them don't have online booking. It's call me to make a booking. We've got a lot of little boutique wineries, and they probably were not set up as well as they would have liked for e-commerce to start selling products that way. And some of those were even just tickets. Hey, buy a ticket now for Grampians helicopters and then use that when you can come back out into the regions. We certainly saw a lot of help out of Victorian Tourism Industry Council. We saw a lot of information coming from them about opportunities for operators. Some of the local government partners, as I said, either ran Zoom workshops or offered rebates or offered assistance in setting up websites, because believe it or not, some of our operators, little operators, but some of them didn't even have a well-working website. COVID just highlighted how important that was, because no matter how much we might say to people, having an Australian Tourism Data Warehouse listing is so important. Having an operational website is really important. Making sure it's mobile friendly is really important. COVID, all of a sudden they're like, oh, I understand now. I see what you're saying. Because if you've got people locked down at home and they're looking for a bit of travel inspiration, what do you offer? During COVID, there was a lot of online resources, and sometimes it was death by Zoom. We certainly made people aware of opportunities for training. But what we did do to deliver something to operators across the 4 local government areas. We said, okay, here is an opportunity. We can see that you're struggling with this. So we called in the team at Tourism Tribe and said, this is what we want to deliver. And we want it to be far more than a social media thing. We want it to cover off analytics, reputation management. And we needed it to be, because they're small business operators, these are the guys who are booking people in. These are the guys who are doing all of it. They're cleaning the rooms. They're doing the maintenance. You can't have them sit in front of a computer for a whole day to do this. You know, to get time out of their business is really hard. So it needed to be in little chunks that they had the time to do it, but they could also digest it. We needed to build their confidence, because I think that's a real issue here. A lot of these people are like, I don't want to touch my website. I don't know anything about it. So we had to give them confidence to use the tool, saying you can't really break it, and educate them in saying it doesn't mean that you've got to sit in front of your computer all day, every day, responding to these things. Digital technology can actually make life a little bit easier. You know, if not all your bookings are coming via the phone, that might actually be a good thing, because you've got a SiteMinder that will manage your bookings and your room allocations and so forth. So we had a couple of operators actually say to us, I've tried, you know, in week 1, they're like, oh, I tried some of those things and the result really was pretty well instantaneous. They said to us, I can see that it's better already, you know, and it was just small things. I think there are some positives out of it. You know, people, when I go around now visiting operators, people are far more willing to try something new. They just had a go. Like, they just like, well, let's try it and see how it works. So they've been dabbling in videos on their Facebook Live and things that they just would never have done or thought that they needed a professional to come in and do. You know, it's highlighting, particularly around some of that social media stuff, it's about the authenticity. You are the face of this business. The business is about you. Now, that property can be distributed by an operator in India or in China or the UK. They can participate in these distribution models that previously they've not had access to. Digitisation of the tourism industry has just potentially made every operator a global operator. And again, COVID just highlights that even more, because they can see how that impacts their business. So I think that's a really interesting development. Out in our area is, believe it or not, reliable internet. That is a real barrier. So that provides challenges of its own, you know. So when you start talking to people, trying to encourage them to up their digital skill, though, some of them have actually said to me, Serena, what is the point of that? I can't even get reliable internet, so why do I need to worry about it? I think the biggest barriers are resources, as we've talked about, you know, time, staff, and financial resources. Staff is a big one, you know, for them in terms of resources. And if they don't feel that they have time to do this, then finding someone in their team that will. Is there a member of your team that you could get to do this? There may be someone there, someone younger, who would love to do your Facebook page and love to do your Instagram feed. I think if you ask to them, they would say, oh, no, we're okay with that. We change our password. Or having said that, they probably don't change their passwords. They've probably got the same password for every account. I think they would be very conscious of it in terms of their, say, financial, you know, banking, that kind of thing, online banking. They'd be very aware of it there. But I think, you know, in someone hacking, say, their social media or that sort of thing, no. I think a lot of them are probably not as familiar or aware on how to protect probably their online, particularly around reputation and bookings, that kind of thing. I had one operator, they purchased the business and someone else was running the Google My Business for the previous owners, and that was not sort of handed over to the new owners. So all of a sudden they find that their online Google My Business listing is in the hands of somebody else. Now, they didn't know who that was until they get this thing saying, hey, you've not paid us for 2 years, you need to pay us this amount. And they're like, well, no, actually, we can do that ourselves. And then all of a sudden, the whole thing falls in a heap. The person who was running the Google My Business page took it down, removed all the information. And then all of a sudden your business is showing up on Google as permanently closed. So if you're a business and you're running Instagram, Facebook, Google AdWords, all those things, it's a whole audit that's a whole other part of the business. It's not now just a case of buying the 8 rooms and people driving in and out and you clean the rooms. It's all this other intangible stuff that goes with it. And how do I get access to that? I think that's probably the big one, you know, particularly when you see businesses selling all those parts of your digital footprint that you need to take in as part of that business sale, and then they don't know where to go with that. I still have operators emailing me, Serena, is this a phishing email? Is this a scam? You know, so if some of them struggle to identify what is a legitimate booking versus phishing emails, you know, that is a challenge in itself. But really, I don't think it comes back to the technology so much. It comes back to their confidence and the resources they have to educate themselves about how they could make life easier for themselves. What we don't have, and I speak from a regional tourism board point of view at this point, is the resources to do it ourselves. So 2 people to cover that area, we can't physically get out and do this for all these operators. Our primary role, most people would say, is destination marketing. So our role really is there to drive people to the region. I think it's a critical role of regional tourism boards to support industry development. Without developing industry and new product, you don't have anything to market. So the pilot that we ran with Tourism Tribe for those 20 operators has gone over so well. And when I've rung to speak to them, they're like, oh, it was great. These are just the kinds of things that I needed to know. It's made a real difference to the business. Now, I'd love to do that over and over again until we got all our operators on that sort of level playing field, because, you know, rising tide lifts all boats. If everyone is learning and it lifts the whole experience for visitors, then everyone wins. You know, everyone wins right across the region. So it's not just about one town here or there or one operator here or there. The whole lot benefit. We also need funds to help us pay to bring the experts in to deliver these kinds of projects. They're the 2 biggies from our point of view. We're seeing a lot more work with, you know, itinerary planning. We're starting to see a lot more things, you know, digital itinerary planning, geolocated podcasts, the tools digitally to experience a region, but it still encourage them to come out and experience that. Those are the things that I think are going to be game changers for tourism. I think digital has made such a huge change. The way that we do business now is so dramatically different. The basics are still the same. We're still there because we want to give people great experiences and talk about all the great things there are to do wherever you might be in the world. In terms of international markets, we're still seeing interest, you know, internationally from people who, when the borders open, want to come visit. You know, we're still doing a lot of stuff via Zoom, you know, training for inbound tour operators and agents, you know, in India and China and all over the world, really. So life will get easier once those borders reopen, but there's still a long way to go yet. Yeah. Long way to go. Yeah.